Welcome everybody to another episode of Bill on Bikes. We're in my facility, the Motorcycle Garage in Phoenix. As the recording of this, it is April 2nd, 2025, the day after my birthday. Yes, I was born on April Fool's. And I'll tell you, I cannot believe I've been in this business 50 years in the motorcycle industry. It's very humbling, and I can't believe I've made it to this age. It's been a great life so far, and hopefully a lot more years to go. Still love working on the motorcycles, and everybody always asks me when I'm going to retire, this and that. I just want to even keep growing the business, so we have some new machinery coming in. I can't wait to show you that a little later in the year, and just keep working along. I'd like to work minimum till 70, but God willing, if I stay healthy, that'll be the plan. Anyway, 2004 Fatboy, been sitting a long time. One of my good customers, Bobby, owns this. As you remember from earlier videos, you may have seen when they were building my dyno room. That was my good friend Bobby, Bobby Brewer, and Tom McDermott. And this is Bobby's bike, and we're gonna be installing some nice looking DNA wheels that we had done up with custom black and blue nipples, which are gonna look great. And I'm also going to show you some of the difficulties we have installing tires on those type of rims. I'll show you why in a little bit. And not sure, it's been sitting long enough. Am I going to have another fuel issue here in the tank? Maybe, maybe not. We'll find out. We're going to do the full service and see if I can get Bobby going for the end of Bike Week, because it is Bike Week out here in Arizona. Technically Cave Creek Bike Week, which is 10 days. And then over the weekend is actual Arizona Bike Week, which they have out at Westworld. That's where they have all the live bands and stuff like that. But honestly, for me and from my customers, from what I hear, the best time is up there in Cave Creek. Guys have it's kind of like a mini Daytona or a mini Sturgis. It looks like a lot of fun. I'm sure you can look up Cave Creek Bike Week 2025 and find multiple videos here on YouTube. So anyway, let's get going on this and see what we have. Let's get started on the wheels before we do anything actually on the motorcycle. We have some really nice DNA wheels we had laced up with the matching blue nipples. Obviously everything else is black. These wheels are unique because you do not use an inner tube with them. They have this sealant in here. I know what it is. It's probably proprietary to this particular company, so I'm not going to actually tell you what the this rubber material is. I don't want to have any issues. But we do have issues with mounting tires on these type of wheels, and I'll tell you one of the reasons is I have one of my cutaway tires that I use for some of my forensic stuff, and we have the heel and the toe of the tire, and it obviously goes in the bead seat area like this, and you have your bead hoop and your cords come down and wrap around, and depending whether it's a reinforced tire or not, the amount of cords that would come down the side and actually go up the other way on the sidewall to give it more stiffness. We're not going to get into tires. That's just a quick explanation of what's going on there. One of the major issues we have is when this rubber sealant is in place, we don't have enough well depth in here to install our tires. So when we go to put in the area where the bead seats onto the rim, it'll contact this sealant. The National Tire and Rim Association says you need a minimum of 52 thousandths from the bead area to inner portion of the wheel or the well, and these are half of that. And so it causes a problem when you go to install or buttonhole the tires, sometimes we refer to it as. One of the major issues is when I'm doing the installs, sometimes you can hear cords cracking. I've torn some tires in this area here, had to replace them. It's probably not the best system. Hopefully something changes in the near future with the well. I don't know. They'd have to redesign the rim, but technically this isn't compliant, so we'll see what happens in the near future. There are other companies that also have wheels like this. Ride Right was another one, an American company who has since closed, and there are some knockoffs that I've seen around, same type of thing. Another issue is I see guys will come in here and they've had issues with this rubber sealant maybe not holding well, seeping. Most of the times the air seeping is around the air valve itself, the valve stem, but they'll go and they'll run an inner tube. You never want to run an inner tube with one of these rims, because as the tire pressure gets low, the internal temperature comes up and the actual tube will start rubbing against this rubber. It ends up getting really hot and you'll have a sudden loss of air, and the tube actually reverts back to its initial state, which actually looks like chewing gum when they make a tire before they actually make the tube itself. So again, very dangerous situation. Never ever ever run a tube in these rims, and you'd be amazed at how many bikes I see come in here and guys have gone and put tubes in because they just don't know, and it's incredibly dangerous. You know, other than that, the early DNA wheels had a lot of hub issues. They had spokes that would come loose. That was a material issue. That hasn't been around for a long time, so that's pretty squared away. Beautiful looking rim, finish, always nice finish. And the price is, you know, relatively cheap compared to other manufacturers like the Ride Right. One wheel would cost you what all this here costs. I mean, I get the rotors, the belt sprocket, and two wheels basically for what Ride Right was getting for one. So, like I said, there's other knockoffs out there, but mounting the tires is a pain, and actually removing the tires, there goes the compressor, but I'm going to keep talking because we know how that goes. Oftentimes, I will actually have to cut the bead hoop area to be able to get the tire off the rim when I'm, you know, changing out to a tire that's been worn to a new tire. So some of the issues with these wheels, I just wanted to point that out. I know a lot of guys bitch about doing the install. We have the same issues with the 300s and the 240 with billet rims on a lot of the custom bikes. They don't have any wheel well depth either, and it can be a nightmare getting those on and off, especially the 300s. I can't stand doing them. Matter of fact, if you were to come to me and you have a chopper and you want your tire changed for a rear tire, I get 2 hours to do that job because there's so much that has to come apart. You got to disassemble the caliper from usually the bracket, all the spacers, and then getting that tire off that's this wide, it's a nightmare, especially for one guy. So anyway, we're going to get these tires mounted up. I'll show you that process. And once we get the wheels all assembled, we'll get the wheels off the Fatboy, get them installed, and then get on with the service. All right, have our disc installed, our screws torqued to 20 foot-pounds. Also, I always mark the disc with direction of rotation. That way I don't mount the tire backwards and have to try to take it off again. Because as I've said, we've had some issues with mounting tires on these rims. I'm going to show you what we have to do to get a tire properly mounted. But before that, I'm actually going to rotate the wheel 180 degrees here, so I'm working off the hub side. Less chance of doing any damage to our disc. First things first, we're going to remove the valve core. A lot of people call this a Schrader valve. It's really a valve core. Schrader is just a company that makes a valve core. Remove that. I always make sure that our valve stem is in the proper position and tight. Last thing you want to do is have one of these come loose on you going down the road. They are double nutted here on the back side. Also, DNA and Ride Right, these companies were not the first ones to come out with a tubeless spoke wheel. It was a company called Hullcraft that originally did it back in the, I'd say it was either late 90s, early 2000s. Matter of fact, one of my custom bikes on the floor has two Hullcraft wheels. They were the first ones to do it. Their Chrome facility burnt down. I'm almost positive it was early 2000, and they never reopened. So that kind of buried the company, unfortunately, because they were a beautiful wheel. We're gonna go and install our tire. The big thing is you have to lube the hell out of them. If you don't, you're not getting the tire on. Can't stretch it over the rim itself. Again, we don't have the proper depth here in the wheel well, so that's what creates the issue. And oftentimes you'll hear a little bit of popping and cracking. It may be a cord stretching. I can't see inside the tire. I'm pretty sure we may even lose a few cords. It's kind of common, unfortunately. If I tear the bead area of the tire will have to be replaced. So hopefully that's not going to happen. Probably happened to me 2 or 3 times where I've had to replace the tires. So we're going to lube it up real well. I'm going to lube it outside, makes less mess for me, and then we'll mount it. That's another reason I make sure that this rotation is correct the first time. I don't want to have to do it twice. Okay, this thing is really lubed up with our lubricant, basically soap and water. Some you guys like to use just tire paste, whatever floats your boat. We're going to check the rotation, which that would be correct. These tires don't have a dot on the tire that marks the light spot of the tire. So we'll go and just mount it like this. Get our arm in position, which I did not have preset, so stand by to stand by. Okay, ideally, I like to be able to try to do both beads down into the well at the same time. Not necessarily will I be able to do it with this rim. Sometimes I can, sometimes I can't. All right. Now normally you could see how far away this bead area is from actually the rim itself. Another trick I do is take a clamp. A lot of guys have extra hands, someone to help them. I don't. I use this clamping tool, which helps a lot to help get this down into the wheel well as far as possible. You can see we're already contacting the rubber, so you know I'm about 25 thousandths short of where I need to be to get this to go. So let's see if we can continue. All right, you can see how difficult that was. The rim actually started to spin a little bit. That's another reason I keep towels here. That way there'll be no damage to our nice black powder coated rim. Didn't really hear any popping that time, which is great. This tire is not a reinforced tire. The reinforced tires have the tire cords will come down, wrap around the bead hoop, and come up the opposite direction. Sometime I'll get into tire construction. Their tires are an amazing product. I mean, you don't realize what goes into a tire. It's absolutely amazing. Anyway, I can move our arm up now. I can take my clamp off. And what I'm gonna have to do before I put air in it, I'm gonna have to loosen my clamp and remove these towels. The last thing I want to do is inflate the tire and have the towels get stuck between the tire and the rim, which, if I'm being honest, I've done before, so don't want it to happen today. And there we go, both sides are up. Install our valve core. Another thing a lot of you guys might not know, there actually is a torque spec for a valve core. You can buy a special tool like this one, 4 inch-pounds. 4 inch-pounds is the Tire and Rim Association specification. And I'll just do it a couple times. I'll get guys over tighten these, strip them out, or they're under tightened and they leak air. Have the proper tool, you won't have to worry about it. So now we can inflate it to the proper air pressure. And I have a nice big gauge on the side of the machine here. Here in Arizona where it gets really hot, we always run maximum tire inflation here in Arizona because of the heat. As tire pressure drops, internal tire temperature increases, and you can actually get to a point where you exceed the curing temperature of this tire, which is somewhere around 400 degrees, and that's when the tires actually start to come apart. All right, so we're gonna set this one at 40. We're gonna put our cap on, and then all we have to do is balance it. Now, obviously, because this has the fat spokes, we don't have a wheel weight that fits over the spoke correctly. So I actually use the Harley bar and shield stick-on weights, which look nice on these wheels, and hopefully it won't need more than 1 or 2 ounces. All right, we are back at it. I had to run down to the local dealership. I had run out of the custom wheel wells. These are the ones that the CVOs come with. You can see they're pretty nice with the bar and shield. They didn't have black, but the chrome ones will look good. So a little bit of contrast, and I just don't like running, you know, typical wheel weights. They just don't look great. So let's get these installed, and we'll go from there. Some alcohol and water mix, denatured alcohol. Get these good and clean. Now the factory will tell you they want you to put these on with a drop of super glue, but I don't necessarily like to do that on a nice rim. So, and if you get these good and clean, they tend not to fall off. I like to put these inside here too on the nipple where it's nice and clean. A little more surface. And we still got another ounce to go. All right, all nice and balanced. We're good. Another thing I can't stand when guys leave the stickers on the tires. You got to take that off. All right, that's a sharp looking wheel. We'll get that mounted up later. We're gonna do the rear one, and then I probably won't even film that, but we'll film the assembly on the vehicle. Let's get the rear wheel installed. I've already installed the belt sprocket, and I've held off on installing the disc. Gives me a little more room to work with here. when I go to install the tire. Now this tire is going to be a little more difficult to install because it is a reinforced tire, so the sidewall is going to be stiffer. I've marked the rotation. It's kind of like, you know, when you go to the doctor and you're going to get an operation like on your knee, right or left knee, they mark it, same thing. That way I don't screw up. And we'll move our valve core, grab our new Scorcher Michelin tire. All right, we get it all soaped up here. Load it up. Let's see. We'll check our rotation. We want to go this way, so this is upside down. All right. Well, we'll get this mounted up. Try to do both sidewalls at the same time, but again, it doesn't always work. Ideally, it's the best way to do this style tire with these rims, but we'll see. All right, that's getting pretty tight. So, we're gonna do our old clamp trick here. Hopefully not to do any damage to this tire. And you hear a little creak in there. We're not tearing, which is good. That one wasn't too bad. You know, depending on the tire sidewall stiffness, you can see this one is stiffer, but it's not as stiff as some of like the Dunlops, and those type of tires can be really more difficult to put on. Again, we don't have the proper depth here in the wheel well, so it makes life difficult. So we're going to remove this from the machine so I can remove my towels. Again, maximum pressure, we're going to seat it first. We'll install our valve core. We're going to torque it to spec, which is 4 inch-pounds. This tool will click. We'll click it a couple times. All right. Okay, we'll install our disc, and then I'll balance it, and we'll start the disassembly on the Fatboy and try to get these wheels mounted up. All right, well, the wheel's installed. We haven't torqued the axle yet. I have about maybe 20 pounds on it. We want to make sure our wheel alignment's correct, our spacers are correct. Sometimes you have to change the spacers because we are running a different sprocket spacer, so that's spaced out further towards the primary side. So what we have to do is occasionally change the spacer. I think I'm pretty lucky this time. It's looking good. The belt's going to track nice and straight. So we want to rotate this in the direction of the wheel as it would, you know, normally travel down the road. So the belt will load outwards to where it naturally wants to sit. Once it's basically in its parked position, we can drop this down and make sure we have our alignment correctly. You always want to go off the pivot shaft and go to the center of the axle, from center of the pivot shaft to center of the axle, and then go to the opposite side and do the same thing. Don't go by just measuring the adjusters because it won't be correct. You want to be as perfect as possible. That's right on the money. So now what we're going to do is set the vehicle down. And I don't have the belt guard or the lower belt guard on. I like to compress it a few times. And now we're going to set our belt at 3/8 at 10 pounds. I'm a little jammed up. It rained today and I had to bring the bikes inside, so I have, I don't know, 25 bikes in the back shop. And then it cleared up and then it started to rain again, so I just left them inside. I don't like customers' bikes getting wet. So we'll do our belt adjustment quickly here. All right, so we're good. We'll tighten up our axle and we'll be able to go onto the front wheel. Also, you notice I changed the brake pads. They're a little bit softer for these new polished discs. I'll do the same for the front. There was plenty of pad left, but I like to run a little softer pad. And this axle gets torqued to 65 foot-pounds for this year. And we're at 60, so we'll go 5 more so I can line up the cotter pin, and we're all set. Then you always want to go back and double check that you've tightened the lock nut on the adjusters. And I'll always check the belt one more time after the axle's been tightened just to make sure it's secure and in the proper position and at the proper 3/8 at 10 pounds. There we go. And that is right on the money. So we are good to go, and we'll put our retainer in for the axle nut, and that's that. All I have to do now is put on the lower belt guard and the top belt guard, and we'll be good to go, and we can go on to the front. April 3rd, 2025, I have my hot caffeinated beverage. It is day 2 of our Fatboy project. We have the wheels installed and we're getting ready to put in a new Deca battery with all our S&S oils. What I'd like to do is get the vehicle running first, so let's get the battery installed, see if we can start it, get that oil circulating and stuff. It's been sitting for a long time. Then we'll go ahead and do our service. I've already done the rear brake service, new pads. It's already been flushed, the .5. New pads in the front, but I have not flushed the .5 up there yet, which we'll do later. And also I wanted to point out something quickly. As many of you may or may not know, Deca makes Harley-Davidson batteries, and for the longest time, the difference from the Harley battery and the Deca battery was a gray case for Deca, black for Harley. Obviously, you had Harley-Davidson embossed on the case, and the terminal was flush with the case. Well, the other Deca battery usually had a gray case. You had to run a spacer behind the terminal. Supposedly, Harley had some deal with them where, to make the battery different, they had to run the spacer, and Harley didn't. Well, that's gone away. The spacers are now flush. They now are all coming with a black case. This is a 20L, the 30L LAs, which are on the baggers. There's still a spacer required, but I'm told that that's changing shortly, maybe even by the time this video is out. So anyways, great battery. Deca makes probably 85% of the batteries on the market. Most of the diehards and all those brands that are out there, Napa, they're Deca batteries under, with their tag, whatever, company they're using. So, or representing. So anyway, that's good news. Not a cheap battery, but they're good, and you don't necessarily have to go to the Harley dealer to get a battery, which is great. So I have all my S&S products here ready to go. So let's see if we can get this running. Hopefully I don't have any fuel issues. There's not a lot of fuel in this tank. The liner looks okay from peeking into the gas fill, so maybe we're okay there. So let's see if we can get this fired up. Let's change the battery and we'll go from there. So this is an older Deca battery, might as well show you. Gray case. Notice you have to run the spacer in here between the terminal and the actual wire connector. So this is what the new one looks like. Compare them. Nice flush terminal. You won't have to worry about dropping spacers anymore and having to find them or drop down into the belt. You gotta, you drop a spacer or any type of bolt, anything, you always have to find it. So it's gonna make my life a lot easier. All right, let's see if we can start it. I hear the fuel pump fire up for 2 seconds. It's in neutral. All right, well that's a good sign. The oil tank went from completely empty to filling right up, so all that oil that was sitting in the lower end got through the system, and we let it circulate a little bit. So now we'll go on with the service part of this project, and hopefully I can get this done today. Man, it's dirty. It's been sitting here for a while. So as I'm going along with our service, it's kind of funny. I can see the last time I serviced this bike, because I always put on the air filter, the mileage, the date. So May of 2020, and I did a full service at 40,500 miles, and then I sign it. That's kind of funny. That's I do that on every service, so I'll take this off and then rewrite on here what we're doing today. I don't even know what the mileage is in this. I haven't looked. And a couple things to note here when we're servicing the air cleaner and the fuel system. I don't always just wash the air filter and then hit it with the K&N red oil. We actually go in with Q-tips, and I soak them up here with some carb cleaner, and I clean out the IAC, because this gets a lot of carbon on it, and oil and gunk. So we clean these up. You see how dirty that is. And My wife always asks, what are you doing with all the Q-tips? And then we'll always make sure the breather bolts are torqued correctly. And then we also check the 2 screws on the throttle plate and make sure those are still locked in place, because if they loosen up, that can make for a really bad day. And it is not uncommon for that to happen. So we clean this out well, wipe out the throttle blade a little bit, and then I mark the screws once I make sure they're tight. Push those ones off, and then we will mark those. And I also always initial it. People wonder oftentimes, or they'll complain, well, why is a service so expensive? And if you're doing a service correctly, this is all the things you're supposed to do, everything you're supposed to look at, check all the critical fasteners. You notice I go into all the side cover screws. You don't see everything in the video that we do, but for the most part you do, because I start and stop as I'm going along. But it's time consuming to do it right. All right, it is late in the day, probably around 4:30. As you can see, service takes a good day, and I also started yesterday. Everything is done. We even changed out the fork fluid, flushed all the brake fluids, made sure the primer is adjusted correctly, adjust the clutch inside here, up at the cable, pull and lube the pins, pull and lube the clutch pin, adjusted the belt 3/8 to 10 pounds. Obviously the new wheels, and we installed new brake pads, checked all critical fasteners, replaced transmission oil, primary fluid, and engine oil. So other than that, guys, I think we're looking pretty good. We're going to get it outside, wash it, detail it, and then we'll go for our usual test ride. You can even catch a bullet from the peacekeeping force. Even a hero gets a bullet. As you can see, this 2004 Fatboy really cleaned up nice. I'll turn the wheel here. You get a good look at that DNA wheel. And let's touch upon the DNA wheels a little bit. They're a nice wheel. I don't know about how much of a high mileage wheel they are over time. Like I said, in the early days, they did have hub issues. As far as I know and what I have seen so far, that's been squared away. Tire installation on these wheels and removal can be a real issue. Again, technically not Tire and Rim Association compliant, which is an issue and could be an issue in the future. But they look good when they're installed, I can say that. And you do see them on a lot of show bikes. I know the guys in, dirt bags out there in Southern California, they use a lot of their wheels. I see them quite often on their builds. And they build some beautiful motorcycles. Around here in Phoenix, I do see them occasionally. I think I do probably more than most, but that's why I know about these tire installation problems. It's such a pain. And they will bleed off air sometimes, and that can be an issue too, but that's for another time. So that decision's on you. The jury's out. You guys decide whether you want DNA wheels or not. They do look nice. They make all different color combinations, and the nipples you can get in multiple colors, the spokes. There's even different design spokes. You can get fat spokes with little dimples in them, and you go to their website, you'll see plenty of stuff. So I think my customer Bobby's going to be incredibly happy. It's all set. I did look up the mileage. We got about 42,000 on it. So he is a rider. He hasn't ridden in a long time. But I think he's going to get back on the road and be really happy. So I'm going to go take this for a test ride, and we'll see how she goes down the road. Well, there you have it. The Fatboy, the famous Harley-Davidson Fatboy. The iconic Fatboy, the one that Arnold made famous. What a great motorcycle. I don't love the new ones with the rectangular headlight. I really enjoy the big light and the look of this original Fatboy over the newer style with the monoshock. Just not really a fan, but everybody has an opinion, so whatever. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope it was informative. Please like, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys next time on Bill on Bikes. Thanks for watching.